Suppose you wanted a circle that's centered directly between these 2 points. I have them graphed here. This one's 0, negative 3 halves, and this one's at 2, 3 halves, or sorry, 3 fourths. So that's what these 2 points are. This is the circle we want to draw. Now, to draw the circle, we really want an equation of the circle. So we know that the radius is halfway, the distance halfway between these 2 points, because the circle is going to be centered halfway between them, and the radius is going to be half this distance. But how do we find the center? Well, the center is really just the average between these 2 points, the average between the x values and the average between the y values, and that puts us directly in the center. It looks to be right here, but it might not be. And that average is shown by the midpoint formula. The midpoint formula finds the averages between 2 points. So what we do is we find the average. So if you're going to find an average between any 2 numbers, you add up the numbers and then you divide it by how many numbers you do it. So in this case, there's going to be 2 of them. If you have the average between 3 numbers, you add all 3 and then divide by 3. Add 4 numbers up, divide by 4. Here we're only adding up 2 numbers. So we're going to divide by 2. And that's all this is. The averages between the x values and the average between the y values. So all we have to do is find this average between these 2 points, and that will give us the location of the center here. Let's go ahead and do that. X1, I already have it written here. X1, Y1 is going to be 0, negative 3 halves. So X1 is going to be 0. X2 is going to be 2. Y1 is going to be negative 3 halves, plus Y2 is 3 fourths. That's going to be over 2. So this one is 0 plus 2 over 2. That's going to be 2 over 2, or 1. This one, I need common denominators. Negative 6 fourths plus 3 fourths over 2. That's going to be negative 3 fourths over 2. And this is going to be a fraction divided by a number. I can multiply by the reciprocal. This is the same thing as multiplying the 2 denominators together. That's just end up giving us 1, negative 3 eighths. So that is at 1. That's this x coordinate. And let's see. This is at 2. This is 1 right here. So this is going to be 1/2. And this one here is 1/4. And you can see this is kind of halfway between these two, which would be 3/8. But of course, these are all negative. I should say negative 1, negative 1/2, negative 1/4. Halfway between negative 1/4 and 1/2 is negative 3/8. So that looks to be correct. The last step here to find the equation of this circle is to find the radius. And we can do that by either taking the distance from the center to one of these outside points, or we can find the distance between the outside 2 points and then cutting that in half, the diameter, and then cutting that in half to be the radius. So that's what we're going to be doing here, is we're going to take the distance between the 2 endpoints here. I'm going to say this is x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I'm going to cut that distance in half to find the radius. So plugging that into here, we're going to get, let's see, the square root of x2, so it's going to be 2 minus 0. That's being squared. Y2 minus y1. The whole thing is being squared, and the square root of that entire thing. And this distance is going to be divided by 2. Okay, so now we have 2 minus 0 is just 2, 2 squared. And then we have plus this one. Of course, we have one common denominator, so I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. That's going to give me 3 over 4 plus 6 over 4, which is going to be 9 over 4. and it's still being divided by 2 here. So we get 4 plus 9 over 4 squared, square root of that. Okay, and for this, you can see that we need to square top and bottom here for the fraction. Of course, I already did 2 squared. That's going to give me 81 over 16. 9 squared is 81, 4 squared is 16. Square root of that. So now I need to get common denominators here. I'm going to multiply by 16 over 16. That's going to be 64. 64 over 16 plus 81 over 16. And that's going to give me, let's see, 6 and 8 is 14 plus 5. It's going to be 145 over 16, the square root of that, over 2. Now, the square root of 145, the square root of top and bottom there, the square root of 145, that can't reduce at all, so square root of 145 is the numerator. The square root of 16 is going to be 4 in the denominator. So we're going to have, I'm kind of running out of room here, but the square root of 145 over 4, and this whole thing is being divided by 2. That's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So it's going to give me the square root of 145 over 8. And this is, once again, this is the radius. That's what we found here. So we have the radius. We have the center. Center is 1 negative 3/8. And of course, this whole process was for the radius. So the equation of the circle would be x minus the x coordinate of the center, x minus h, which would be 1 here. That's being squared. Then we have y minus k. K is the y coordinate of the center, which is negative 3/8. So it's going to be negative of negative 3/8, so plus 3/8 squared equals the radius, which is the square root of 145 over 8, squared. So if we're going to square top and bottom of that, we're going to get 145 over 8 squared is 64. So that's going to be the equation of a circle. Let's graph it and see what we find. All right, and here is the circle graphed. I have the 2 endpoints here, and then the center point right here, all graphed. And this is the equation I just found. It does indeed go through these 2 points, and it looks like it is indeed centered around there. So this looks exactly like what we want. Give it a try in numbers 4, 5, and 6.